So I'll be back in Cape Vincent in the springtime.
Yeah, and Jeannie, for some reason, your video went off.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't see anything. Is
Okay.
it on now?
You're back. You're back.
I can't.
We're good.
Mary, I can't see anybody. I think you shared your screen, so I'm black.
Carol, can you see
I can see everybody.
That's really weird.
Go to view and do gallery. That might be the problem. So view should be up in the upper corner.
Yeah, I'll get it.
All right. So and then we have three guest speakers and a visitor as well. So let's just go around that. We'll do them kind of in the order that we're going to have our speakers. So first,
I don't need to stand, do I?
no, you don't need to stand. We're very informal.
All right, my name is Christy Stump-Rourke, and I am the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today to.
We're going to just introduce them.
Oh, okay.
Let me just like totally
Sorry,
through with
Jody.
you. Okay, and then,
I'm Jody May. I'm just a resident of Cape.
all right,
Spencer Bustler, the Assistant Director for the Thousand Islands Land Trust.
and
Actually, Tubble's the Executive Director.
excellent. Thank you. All right. So first, we're just going to do a little housekeeping. We need to approve our February minutes. Could I have a board member motion to approve? Pam, thank you. And can I have a second? Thanks, Mandy. All in favor? Aye. All righty. Now we got that out of the way. All right. So now, Christy. All right. So yes, Christy, please.
Okay, so now I start?
Now you may start.
All right, so I'm gonna make this really brief. For nearly a year now, the chamber has been using the slogan, "Stronger Community Together." And one of the links in that community strength, I believe, is having the LDC join the chamber. In our Stronger Community Together, the importance is making sure each of the community organizations are working closely together. And by having the LDC join the chamber, then we can easily communicate with you, have you under our umbrella. And when events come up or when we have ideas, we can share those with you and you can share what you're doing with us.
Great, thank you. And we'll actually discuss that as a board and get back to you a little later in the meeting, and thank you. Ooh,
And there you go. And there's a cost. And the cost would be $40 for a year. The membership renewal is each fall. So if you were to renew it right now, we would be asking for a renewal in the fall, which would be again $40. So a lot of people are concerned that they'll be like, hey, I just paid it in March. Don't I pay it again in March? And no, fees are due every fall. So just to let you know, that's how it works. Any other questions about the membership fee? How it works?
Why do we collect in the fall?
You know, Dan, that's a really good question. When I came into the position, they always said we always collect in the fall for the year. And I just went with it. I never questioned it.
Yeah, I'm just, business wise, we're filling up fuel tanks. Business is going like this. And just, that's for businesses as well, not just the municipal or the membership is for the
All
businesses
yeah,
in the
all
fall.
for business, organization, individual. It's
It
all.
might be something your board would want to look at in maybe June.
It may also
July.
have been about because everybody's season is ending.
Yeah.
And they figured their pockets are full at the end of the summer season. Might as well get them then before. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Maybe
a really good
maybe a
question.
survey for business people.
Yeah.
Cause I've talked to a couple that said, well, we're scared to death with winter coming on, or,
Right.
I don't know, throwing it out there.
Is business membership $40? No, business membership is $150. So again, I don't know. I mean, what Dan just questioned, that's really good. If I were to just question, because Pam's husband is a business member. Is it easier in the fall when businesses?
Make a big difference to us, but I can see how the business owner downtown. It'd be interesting, maybe to survey.
To me, I would think it would be harder in the winter to pay the New Year fee.
Right, but like Dan said, in the summer, maybe when they're flush.
I mean, are you
Yeah,
seeing, are
yeah.
you seeing decline? Are you seeing the local businesses? I mean, that's probably the good thermometer.
Usually when we do the drive, we get a pretty good influx.
Yeah, maybe it's
Yeah.
a moot point. I just got thinking about it. Thank you.
Because it's seasonal versus our husband's business.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking more restaurants, bars, whatever.
But it doesn't hurt to do a survey either, though.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's up to you. Like I said, if you're not seeing a decline, it probably isn't worth going through the motion. I just wondered if you would seen any.
There are a few businesses along Broadway that did not re-up this year, and I'm kind of curious why.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe a survey.
No,
Survey, doesn't hurt to do a survey.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna exit. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Take care. All right, next up is gonna be Spencer and Jake, and they're gonna talk a little bit about the Tilt organization and what they've just acquired here in Cape Vincent. So now let me see how my technology works, and I'm going to share my screen. And let's see how it goes. All right. Let me know when you guys can see it, because we can't see it here. Thumbs up from the here. Yeah, okay, good. You guys can see it and we can't. So isn't that special? Well, I'm gonna do this. Maybe. Let's see if this one. Window. Try to size this thing. They're making you guys really small. And then I'm going to go into screen share mode. Maybe. And then I'm gonna move you guys. Because you probably don't want us to see your notes. No, I don't want that. Go away. You know?
Not on the screen. They
Yeah.
weren't,
What's that?
their notes weren't on this.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure why it's not just doing normal screen show mode. But, and
Well.
it looks like it's also doing a transcription and I have no idea why. Just, let me know when you'd like me to move to the next screen and I'll actually try to accomplish that.
Sure, sounds good to me.
Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, again, I'm Spencer Bustler. I'm with the Thousand Islands Land Trust. Happy to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity to come out and speak. I have Jake Tibbles here, the executive director. We really believe in the work that we do and we're excited about the work that we do and the momentum that we have. So we appreciate the opportunity to come out and share some of that with you and kind of bring everything full circle here. Feel free to advance. I have a nice photograph of the Pivots Point area there, drone photograph. Just a little background on Tilt here. We're a nonprofit community-based conservation organization. We've been around since about 1984, 1985. And since that point, we've been able to conserve about 13,000 acres within the St. Lawrence River Valley, from Cape Vincent up to about Morristown and maybe 5 or 6 miles inland. Really, the goal is a better quality of life for the residents and visitors from the area. I mean, we all live here. We're here right now because of a lot of the natural things that are around us, because of the way of life here and all the beautiful things that this area has to share. So our goal is to preserve and protect some of that, including the natural beauty, the diverse wildlife habitats, water quality, and outdoor recreational opportunities. So that's our mission, and we're excited to advance it. We are an accredited organization, meaning we meet rigorous standards and practices by the Land Trust Alliance. We periodically undergo an audit of all of our conservation files to make sure that we're staying up to the highest and best standards and practices for conservation organizations. And so we're proud to be able to display that accreditation seal, and provide some trustworthiness and confidence to the folks that we work with. Tilt conserved lands in two different avenues. One is through in-fee ownership, in which Tilt owns the land outright. We either can buy the land or have it donated to us. And in that scenario, Tilt actually owns and manages the land just as any other private landowner would. The other avenue is conservation easements, which is a legally binding conservation agreement that Tilt enters into with a landowner, in which only a handful or a certain few rights are transferred to the land trust to oversee in the long term. This depiction on the right shows a good example of that. So land ownership comes with several different rights. The right to enjoy and use your property, to possess and sell your property. In a conservation easement, a landowner will transfer only a few of those to subdivide, to enter into commercial timber management, to develop the property in certain areas. So everyone is unique to the property, and I like the drone photograph that I've provided here, because in the foreground you see Fort Haldeman on Carlton Island right here in Cape. Tilt owns and manages that property in fee, but in the background, in the center of the island, you see the interior forest reserve that has a conservation easement on it to limit the amount of impact to the climax forest habitat that we have there. So we see both examples just in that one photograph.
What's the typical length on something like that? Length of time?
Our conservation easements are perpetual. We want to make sure that the work that we do is long lasting and permanent in nature.
But they still have the right to sell or gift or whatever, but the easement still goes with the new.
Carries on with the land.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So a lot of people ask, okay, which lands does Tilt conserve? And we take this very seriously. We utilize a strategic conservation plan to help identify, quantify, and pursue some of the properties within our service area that have the most sensitivity or ecological importance. And we acknowledge that, the region needs development. And so what we try to do is encourage responsible development and smart growth while conserving some of those more important and sensitive habitats. And our strategic conservation plan takes into a number of variables when looking at our service area, from water resources like wetlands, streams, and rivers, to rare and threatened species and invasive species on our landscape, as well as community interest if there are recreational opportunities on the landscape or historically significant sites. So we lean on this document pretty heavily, and we like to use it because it justifies the work that we do. Historically, we've focused a lot of our conservation efforts along the tributaries of the St. Lawrence River. Here are a few maps depicting some of those major tributaries. On the left, we have our Crooked Creek Preserve. The areas you see in green are lands that are owned by Tilt. This is our single largest contiguous preserve, right on the town line between the town of Alexandria and Hammond. It's about 2,200 acres in size and is just absolutely stunning. You should take a kayak up Crooked Creek if you haven't at some point. It's worth a trip. The middle photograph shows Clayton and French Creek. The areas in the gray are the French Creek Wildlife Management Area, and the areas in green is our Zenda Farms Preserve, which many of you would recognize driving between Clayton and Vincent. So it's nice to be able to expand on existing conservation holding. The bottom right is Crooked Creek in Alex Bay, where we have our our Otter Creek Preserve and Nature Trail. That is a frequently visited nature preserve. A lot of traffic throughout the summer months being that close down. Something that a lot of people don't know is that our region has significance, not only locally, but globally from an ecological standpoint. It was in the late 1990s and early 2000s that the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry actually put a collar on a cow moose in the heart of the Adirondacks. That cow moose then traveled out of the Adirondacks down through the Thousand Islands, crossed the St. Lawrence River, and actually migrated up into the Algonquin Park. And that foundation right there established what's known as the A2A corridor, or the Algonquin to Adirondack corridor. Depending on which side of the river you're on, we call it the Adirondack to Algonquin corridor. But it's known as the Frontenac Arch Wildway, and it's serving as a migration corridor for a lot of not only mammals but bird species, herps, a lot of different amphibians and reptiles that we enjoy around this area and that our area is so special for. You know, you don't really see this at our local level. You have to zoom out on the map to understand the global significance that our little landscape has here. Once we acquire land, we'd like to get people out onto the land. Every single year, we have a number of treks and events that are free and open to the public to be able to get people out and enjoying the landscape that we have here, to be able to teach them about some of the natural values that are around us. For example, on June 15th coming up this year, we have a Rivergate ride on our newly completed Rivergate Trail in Clayton. I don't know if any of you have been able to see our recently completed trestle bridge over McCarn Creek in Clayton.
You did a wonderful job on that.
Thank you. We're pretty proud of it. It's incredible the way it turned out, and it is just receiving so much traffic and camaraderie from the local municipality and the visitors. It's really a nice centerpiece for Clayton to have. So we like to get people out onto the land to enjoy it. When Tilt owns land, it opens up opportunities to restore degraded wetlands and other habitats that exist on our lands. This example that you see here is a side-by-side photo from about 2018 to about 2020. This is the north end of Goose Bay. Tilt acquired this wetland and was able to work with our partner, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Partners Program, to go in and restore a lot of the coastal wetlands that were encroached by an invasive cattail. As you see on the right, there's a far more diverse habitat in there, so that's providing breeding for fish, for waterfowl, for turtles, and a lot of that, you know, the fish coming out of these restoration sites are the ones that the visitors and tourists are coming to target every year. So we're helping support the economy from that aspect as well. Now, Tippett's Point is such a unique place in and of itself because of its location on the Eastern Flyway. There are several threatened and endangered species that call this area home. And it was in 2018 and 2019 when Tilt really focused in on this area, saying, wow, there are some conservation values that are at threat here and really should be conserved. You know, a few of the little critters you see there, you have horned larks, you have on the top right, short-eared owl, which the Grassland Bird Trust says there's about 100 left in New York State. The majority of them are in Jefferson County in Cape Vincent, which is mind-blowing. So, you know, we realize that, okay, this area is really special. It's irreplaceable in our eyes. And we want to make sure that anything that happens there is done with a more global aspect in mind. We're seeing a lot of encroachment from competing uses. We're seeing farmlands being abandoned. We're seeing industrial scale solar targeting our area like never before. We're anticipating anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 acres of solar targeting our grasslands coming over the next decade or so. And we are taking that very seriously. And so to be able to offset some of those impacts that we know are coming, we may not necessarily be able to stop. And we're obviously not anti-renewable. We like to have, you know, renewable energies, but we know that it's going to come at a cost. So what can we do to help mitigate against some of those negative impacts? So we identified, you know, the Fuller Bay area. This is the cropland that was owned by the Schmier family on Fuller Bay near Tippett's Point, adjacent to one of our existing conservation properties. And we entered into discussions with the family to see what conservation options might be available, whether conservation easement or the ability to acquire the property outright. The family was interested in selling the land to Tilt. And so we were able to pursue several state and federal grants to be able to acquire the property. And I'm happy to say that about a month ago, Tilt has acquired fee title to the Schmier croplands on Fuller Bay. Very exciting update there. Now, obviously, there was quite a bit of row crop and agricultural impact on that landscape. And the last thing we wanted to do was to kick the farmer off. So what we were able to actually do is enter into a contract with Woods Farm to be able to come in and reseed all of the row crop land, the native grassland and prairie mix to have warm and cool season grasses. These obviously will suck up a lot of the nutrients that have been applied to the ground over the last decade. So it's going to improve the water quality that's running off into the bays. It's going to provide the habitat for the nesting birds that are very rare in using our area. And it's also going to allow the farmers to continue to take hay from that property for years on end. So we see that as a win-win-win in our book.
How many acres was that?
That was a 210 acre property, of which about 150 or so was tilled and used in row crop between corn and soybean. This is the conservation seed mix that we chose. It's beautiful. So I think the landowners that are living on Middle Bay and Fuller Bay and Wilson Bay are really going to appreciate seeing this out their back door instead of, you know, the corn and soybean that was there initially. And I think we're all gonna really appreciate having that asset in our community in the future. If you haven't seen our most recent newsletter, I brought a handful of copies here today. I highly encourage you to pick it up and take a read through an article I wrote. It's Conserving and Restoring Irreplaceable Places. Really it shows all the benefits of Cape Vincent, the beautiful sunsets that we have, the species diversity, the water quality that you know this place enjoys. So pick it up, read it. Please share it amongst, you know, your constituents, your friends, your neighbors. You know, we're proud of the work that we're being able to put on the ground here, and we think it's going to have a lasting impact. You know, again, it all goes back to the quality of life here for the folks. We want to see this holistically. It's not just about the birds, it's not just about the people and the fish in the water. It's all of it. So it's tied together. You know, it's local impact, global significance. And there's just one last picture on that slide, and this is from Carlton Island. Our very own Tara Bach took that photograph on a trek that we had out there to go look at the heron rookery that's set up in the center of the island. Really unique and stunning feature of that island that is conserved with conservation. So I know I went through that relatively quickly. If you have any questions, happy to field them. But again, you know, thanks for the opportunity to come in.
Absolutely.
Chat
What
then.
questions does everyone have?
That's great. That's wonderful. Have you worked with the municipalities in Clayton a lot, or the LDC specifically, or mostly the village and the county?
A combination.
Okay.
So we have sought various grant funding to be able to tie the Rivergate Trail to the Riverwalk in the village of Clayton. That was with the LDC. The village and town both worked with us on that Rivergate Trail project, donating a concert or a trail easement to Tilt so that we could go in and actually, you know, grade the trail, push back some of the invasive vegetation that was approaching it, and to work with us on some zoning that would have limited recreational trails in certain zoning districts. So, yeah.
So in the Fuller Bay, Tibbetts Point, that section, are you considering any recreational trails similar to, you know, S. Gerald Ingerson or Crooked Creek? And
At this point, we just acquired the property. We're going to be doing that restoration here this coming spring. We've got some biological surveys that are going to be occurring out there for the grassland nesting birds and for the wintering raptors that use the property. So we don't have any intentions of opening it up to the public or creating a trail system for the property at this point. So, you know,
there
that's
have
just
been,
kind of our
the reason
narrow-
I ask is there have been discussions and we're still formulating, you know, projects that we're just kind of getting going as an LDC.
Sure, yeah.
And there have been discussions about the value of recreational trails in Cape Vincent. You know, is there something where people could, you know, I'm making it up, Wilson's Bay, you know, go over to the lighthouse, right? That kind of a, you know, trail area, because that brings people into our community and that's part of our economic development, and, you know, which is, I'm sure, why the LDC and Clayton has done things like that. So what would be, you know, as we start to look at that more seriously, what would be the kind of partnership we might be able to do with you to, you know, be an integral part of that if we decide to go down that path, which there's been discussion on.
Sure, yeah. First and foremost, we're at the table, you know,
Mhm.
we own the land, we know, you know, our role here is long term. So we're not gonna do anything that, you know, say, right now, we're never gonna do this or that.
Yeah.
You know, we wanna keep an open mind. We're gonna take a look at what assets are on the ground there, what areas to avoid any sort of recreational use on.
Mhm.
And really start to think about, you know, what the future of that property looks like. Until we get out there and do those sorts of assessments, it's really hard to tell, because it could be that every single short-eared owl in the world is using that particular property, and we say, oh, okay, we'll keep that in problem. But, you know,
And I go looking for
we're
them, I
at the
never
table.
see them. Now it's terrible. They hide on.
Don't look for it. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Spencer nailed on the head. You know, it's a really great project. It was a huge undertaking to get to the point where we are right now. You know, in addition to the Smear property, we've also picked up the Reinhardt property. And we're in conversations with Mary Mysick also. So hopefully by the time we've completed the conservation end of this initiative, you know, we'll be sitting, you know, roughly around 400 acres or something like that. You know, so there's definitely, you know, there's enough land there after that, you know, to take a closer look and say, okay, you know, is, you know, public access, a recreational facility compatible with what we're seeing on the ground with respect to, you know, species, diversity and some of the other things we're working on. As far as the restoration component looks at, but you know, about so it's not that long ago, but 5-6 years ago, one of the things that I committed myself to as TILTD was to ensure that the land trust was present in every community along the river, from Cape Vincent to Morristown. We haven't quite made it up to Morristown. We haven't quite made it to Cape Vincent. But, you know, we've made some significant progress. The first project we undertook was, you know, the Otter Creek Nature Trail. We completed that in 2012. We moved on to the Chippewa Creek. So it's Chippewa Nature Preserve. Smaller population, but still, you know, a really unique opportunity. We partnered with River Bay Adventures there. So they're at the entrance of the trail. Small little like cottage colony with rentals and, you know, kayaks, really exploring the natural end of it. They get a lot of fishermen. So that was a neat little project to, you know, an economic project to work together because they're bringing people in. We were a nice add-on component. Their renters can use the trail. The people down at Chippewa Bay can use the trail. Then I think we moved on to Foster Lake, so it kind of sits in between Clayton and Cape Vincent, a little bit closer to Clayton. You guys can fight over that. But you know, that's a really short trail. That's like the perfect trail, you know, if you're looking to, you know, get up and get some exercise in when you're on your lunch. Maybe it takes 15-20 minutes to do the loop. You go down there, sit by the river. It's got nice river views. And then most recently we took on the Rivergate Trail, which is something we've been sitting on for quite some time. We knew it was a larger project. It was, you know, just shy of $1 million that we publicly raised. And so, you know, Cape Vincent's kind of the next one. You know, I vowed I wouldn't build any more trails, but, you know, here I am. It's a lot of work. I mean, it is. And we've gone through the process. We've gotten pretty good at it. But long term, you know, it's not just building it, it's maintaining it, working with the community, making sure that there's programming there, that the, you know, just facility is living, you know, so there's changes there, people want to come back to it. So there's a lot to consider, you know, and this, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this would be a wonderful place. You've got Tibbetts Point there, so there's already some sort of economic attraction for the community.
Yeah.
Be nicer if there wasn't so much distance between the village and, you know, Fuller Bay. I don't think we're gonna be able to change that geographically, without upsetting some people, but you know, it's if there's a possibility, there's potential. So you know, I think Spencer captured it perfect. We need to now have it under ownership and, you know, get in there, take a look at it. We've got to do some restoration work. Then once we get a real good handle on that, you know, we're probably looking at, you know, 12 to 18 months out. But, you know, after that, you know, if the community is supportive of it, and that's a big thing. We do enough stuff that some people don't like, right? I mean, I don't think it's a big secret to anyone. You know, Tilt has had, you know, a very exciting, to say the least, history. You know, we've always been that organization that you either love or you really don't like, not much in between. We've come a long ways from that. You know, yes, there's the whole tax debate, but you know, the economic benefits to what we do is so well documented at this point. For most folks who are willing to at least look at it and be open-minded, you know, you see the value there. And I think, generally speaking, I grew up in Alex Bay, been on the river my whole life. We've seen a lot in 30 years. When you think about the amount of development and change that's happened between Cape Vincent and Alexandria Bay, it's astonishing. It's only going to happen at multipliers moving forward, and that's just the fact. You know, so it's going to be important for us to set aside some of our most environmentally sensitive landscapes, make sure that we have outdoor recreation, because at the end of the day, the people who are sitting kind of in the middle class financially, you know, eventually we're not gonna be able to own waterfront property. And so that kind of leaves you with how else do you access this resource that's so impactful to your life, you know, your family's life. It's really the reason why many of us stay here. You know, it's the characteristic that kind of, you know, grips us and doesn't really let us leave, say. So yeah, we got some interesting things ahead of us. I feel very appreciative that you guys invited us to talk and kind of, you know, kind of share what we're doing with you, and you know, hopefully there's something that we can partner on in the future. And if it's not, you know, Fuller Bay, which I think there's good potential there. I mean, it's likely, but as Spencer said, we don't like to commit to anything or say no to anything quite yet. But even if it's not that, there might be some other potential.
And Jake, we're in early days, right? I mean, we're gonna hold focus groups and, you know, the last SWOT analysis, when was that SWOT analysis done, 2017? 18, so like 5 years old.
Yep.
So we need to make sure it's still current, but even back then, people were recreation, and I mean, those were heavy duty things people wanted for economic development in the area. So I would be surprised if when we do our focus groups, that doesn't come up again.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think, at least from my perspective, I'm not going to speak for the board, that, you know, partnership with Tilt and trying to bring that kind of resource to Cape Vincent would be a good thing for us. I want to make sure that if there's any of you guys on the phone have a question or comment?
That was a terrific presentation. I really appreciate it.
Questions? Any other questions?
have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Rob.
So I have friends on, that live adjacent to the land there on the bay, and we had a discussion, and I thought that they just had the wrong information about Hill. So anyway, he was actually saying, well, Hill can acquire this land, but then they could, at some time in the future, have the right to turn around and actually sell it. And I thought, gee, I didn't think that that's how Tilt works. Do you ever sell parcels of your land?
Yes. Yeah, and so, but it's more than that, right? So generally speaking, we don't, you know, we exist to hold land in perpetuity, as Spencer mentioned. You know, easements, obviously, we have no right to sell. Once we hold an easement, it's with us forever. It runs with the land in perpetuity. But in some cases, we do acquire land with the purpose to resell with an easement on it. And so, because realistically, not every property has, say, a willing landowner that wants to work with us, or something gets listed on the MLS that we're just like, we've been looking at this property for years and it's finally come up. The landowner didn't want to work with us, but now they're selling it on the MLS. So we'll buy it outright, but we don't want to own it per se in perpetuity. We'd rather buy it, you know, hypothetically $100,000, and turn around, sell it for $100,000 with a conservation easement on it. And it's a win-win. You know, we've been able to manage how that land gets developed or subdivided in the future, stays on the tax rolls. We've conserved it and we're not out of it. So
His concern was that hypothetically you could sell parcels of that property and that somebody then could build on that.
in
Is
my 17 years with the land trust, we've never parceled anything, nor would I ever support any sort of discussion around that. And generally speaking, a lot of the projects that we're working on are funded through state and federal grants. And those grants actually require notice of grant agreement to be filed and recorded in Jefferson County. So even if, you know, we're here for a period of time, we're having the opportunity and the privilege to be able to help manage something and to, you know, kind of preserve something for future generations. But we're not going to be here forever. Perpetuity is much bigger than us, right? So we're only here for a short period of time, and so is our board. Who's to say a future board might do something that community members might not like? So that's why we're always looking for ways to ensure the permanence of our projects. Those grant agreements that get filed are one of them. Easements on our own field and lands are one of them. We actually just signed an agreement with the Northeast Wilderness Trust. They're actually out of Vermont, and so we took a portion of our Crooked Creek Preserve and we actually applied a conservation easement through them on lands that we own So in case in the future, a board wanted to do some timber harvesting in an area that was ecologically sensitive, there is another legal mechanism that can oversee that, right? So we're always looking to kind of add layers to it because we get it, we're human, and not everyone has the greatest ideas or the greatest intentions that align. So, and we change. I mean, we're only as good as the staff and the people we place on our boards. I mean, we've been very fortunate. We've got a great staff and a very, very strong board. So, but yeah, I mean, in short, the only time we would sell a piece of property is if we had the intent of doing that right when we took ownership. And, but we put them on the MLS. You know, we got some bad press back in the days where we would sell to a neighboring landowner. It's just, you put it on the MLS, you make sure everybody has the opportunity to acquire that land. But generally speaking, you know, people are nervous about the lands with easement, right? As they should be, because there's only gonna be certain things you can do, you can't do with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
A lot of times too, you know, we'll work with landowners who have lands that may not have conservation values or that don't have that ecological significance. And so the landowner will sell that land to us at a bargain sale or donate it to us with the intention of being resold so that we can take those funds and push it, use it to advance our mission on other projects.
We've had development lots donated to us, you know, 2-acre development lot here or there, and it's with the sole purpose of, instead of them writing us a check, they'll give us, you know, we've actually received homes before.
Sure.
And we turn around, sell it and take that money and invest it
Makes
back.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
With your Reinhardt property and the possibility of Mary's, will you have water access out on Fuller Bay?
There is,
Essex?
there's a, yep, a portion of Mary Mysick's property, does have some water frontage there.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, that property in particular is somewhat inundated with the invasive pale swallowwort, which is a really nasty vine that grows and spreads like wildfire. So our intention is to be able to go in there, treat as much of that invasive vine as we can to be able to avoid it spreading to other areas throughout Cape Vincent.
Great.
That's positive, good stuff.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Yes.
Really helpful. Please, know, we wanted you to know we're here.
yeah.
And we know you're there. So let's keep close as you start to think more about what's going to go on here in Cape Vincent, and we'll certainly keep connected with you to let you know kind of where we're headed as well.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much.
I'll leave those there. If you want to take them, feel free to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Right, and our next guest speaker is Jody May, and Jody is here to talk to us about activities for seniors. Thank you, Jody.
I've lived in this village off and on for 23 years. I'm a retired nurse from long-term care, specializing in dementia, Alzheimer's. I have always wondered why we didn't use this building more proactively, especially because we have a large population of older people. We don't live close to anything for people to be able to go to. So without going way too far forward, Danny and I have spoken about it a couple of times, and starting it simply, just have interaction with the elementary schools, have, whether it be, I don't know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an hour, have the kids come over, have the adults either read to them, or Danny said, I mean, they have a wealth of information in their history of this village to just engage. You know, I mean, they are wonderful resources. We have them, and I think there's enough of the population that would be interested, if for no other reason, just to socialize with each other, especially in the winters here. We all know that you can get caught up in your house. So have something develop, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for an hour, to just get out and be with other people. And then we'll see how that works. And then, of course, it can be built on. I mean, I personally would love to see in a year from now for us to have like an adult daycare center. I think that would be fantastic. I worked at one years ago and it was awesome. It's that whole social thing, right? It keeps keeps their minds going, keeps their bodies going, keeps their creativity going. And they have got talent. I mean, kids can learn how to crochet, they can learn how to bake, they can learn stuff that they don't do on an iPhone. You know, and I really think that we have an amazing. I don't know what word would describe. How we just have these resources, they're there, they're real, they're alive, they're living, it's a gold mine. And just waiting for us to create an opportunity so that they can interact. That's my thinking on it. And I think the more that we get the older people involved, then the word will go out and we can move, you know, past to other directions, like I was saying. I mean, it's complicated because we're talking about older people. It's complicated because we have to see if we can get the schools to work with us in that kind of an arena. But I think it's certainly worth trying. I mean, if we don't do it any other time, at least through the winter.
Have you talked to the school at all?
No, I haven't. This is my first kind of, let's see if there's interest, first of all. And then I would certainly be happy to go and speak with them. I didn't want to go lame without having any real agenda to say, you know, this is what we would like to see happen. But that's, I mean, that certainly would be necessary in order for this program, such as it is to begin. I'm so passionate about it because I just know that we have what it takes to make this happen. We just do. We've got the space, and I'm sure we can find people that would be happy to help volunteer to be able, when the program gets bigger, and I anticipate it will. I think it's just a matter of starting from a small step and just letting the word get out, and then people become more comfortable and they get involved, and then all of a sudden they've got ideas how they'd like to see this done. So that's, I'm gonna be redundant. My mouth goes like a whippoorwill's ass. Oh, apology.
That area is something for the seniors,
Right.
adult activity for the seniors, so I don't imagine that will change, just like our need for recreation.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea. Like you said, it'll be a little difficult to get everybody to work together, but it'd certainly be worth
I think so.
something. And like
So-
this group is just starting to plan what the strategic plan will be. and what
Right.
we want to, so maybe that, I think it'll definitely be on our list to examine.
absolutely. And we know that, things like a before school and after school program are desperately needed from the school's point of view.
Okay.
So, is there a way to combine those thoughts? Not so much before school, because that's early. and
Right,
who
but
wants
after
to do-
school, that would be perfect, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be,
They could teach knitting.
oh,
crocheting,
absolutely.
And people could just kind of,
Oh, yeah, that's.
people, the kids could just sign up for, I just want to do this, somebody would have to organize the calendar and
Right.
get the school to advertise.
And when you were saying that this has been, discussed for many years, but yet nothing is really
No, it takes,
come about, though,
Right.
right?
well, the issue is getting somebody to spearhead it. Somebody has to really get assigned the task and then take it to the next level.
Right.
And I think that list that we have, we have accomplished some of them, for sure, but it's a long list.
Yeah, and this is, past, couple of years, I've been consulting with the schools. And they have every minute of the day.
Right.
And they are being asked more and more to squeeze more and more into that time. I love the idea of having people use this, space. I just wouldn't limit it to just having it revolve around interactions with another generation. I mean, I think, there's a lot of,
You can utilize this facility.
in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways with that group and, maybe count myself in there. I mean, I don't know what age range you were considering, but it, I just actually think there would be a lot of options, you know, maybe, but all difficult to kind of get moving because you need like a prime mover to make it happen.
And we've never. LDC, but it could be, it could be the mechanism.
Right.
Well, and we've had interaction with the Clayton. You can probably know more about it than I do with the bus.
The senior center.
Senior center,
Right.
they've offered that. Outings and those types of things, so,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
that's, to kind of piggyback on your point. Those are things that could be generated and,
Yes.
you know, an outing here and outing there, whatever it might be. So yeah, no, I think it's,
If you want to work with a school, I
Yeah.
can get you contact information for the school. So the principal here is Chelsea Molly. What I was thinking is what I would suggest is you ask to meet with her and maybe the PTO
Okay.
and potentially the third, fourth grade classroom teachers.
Okay.
Because that age group, I think is mature enough
Okay.
to maybe have conversations and not just be up here being wild.
Right,
To be completely
right,
honest.
Right,
And then what I would say is maybe offer them an assignment. So my daughter's in fifth grade this year
okay,
and they do a lot of writing and they've done interviews. And why not have the kids come up here, meet with a senior, interview them. So the teacher works with them for some questions, does an interview and then they do a report.
Oh.
So it's not just like we're gonna have, and I like the idea of just coming up here and having that time. Like, I think that's great. But like you said, the school calendar is so packed full of
Right.
stuff. That would give them an assignment.
right,
They would get credit for it. But it would also get that foot in the door. And you could even potentially do that with all three grades, and it might take 2 weeks for each of the grades to do the interview.
right.
Another week or two for them to do the report, and then you could even have the students come back and read the report back to them. Because, you know, that's good. It does presentation skills, it does writing skills, it does
Right,
communication. It's a whole gamut. But I think if you go to them with more of a structured plan idea, it might be more eye-opening and willing for them to do it. And I think it'd probably be something, to be honest, that they wouldn't be able to do until next year. Like the
Okay.
calendar for the school already is set for the
Right.
most part.
right,
And, you know, we're already into the last part of the school year,
right,
which
Right.
doesn't seem like it outside, but.
But it might be a good time, to your point, right, to get the plans in place
Right.
that you could
No,
start
yeah.
in September.
I
Yes,
wouldn't, I
yes.
would definitely talk to them sooner than later, even to plan to start for September.
yeah, that sounds great.
But I feel like the school is very willing to do a lot of stuff. They do stuff for the community. I know some of the classes take trips downtown to, just a couple of weeks ago, my daughter had done, one of the classes she was in, took a bunch of paintings to the local businesses for Kindness Day, I think it was.
Okay.
And they had to go into the business and ask if they could put this painting there and explain to the business owner why and so on. So they do that, and sometimes they'll go pick up, like, clean the park or do different things. So the
Right.
school's very community involved.
Okay,
So I could get you their information if you'd like.
I would, yes.
Are you
because
email or?
I am not tech savvy. I have a cell phone.
Okay.
All right, so Mandy's gonna be our point on this, right?
Okay.
And so she'll reach out and if you wanna just like give her
Yeah.
your phone number or whatever.
Yeah,
And
If
then
you wanna
we'll,
give me your phone
Yes.
number and I can.
yeah, because all of the running around, I can do it in the cluster, and that's why we're thinking of this, because the structure needs to come into play, right?
I wonder about how Wanda.
Yeah.
Because I know they try to plan things for that small.
Oh, I
their
know.
location.
Yeah.
But they must be a partner.
No, that's great, because it, you know, that would work out perfectly to get everything in place, so September comes.
Yeah.
And
They wanted to
we're all
rebrand.
set to go, and in the meantime, get other smaller, less organized or less structured, things going on here.
Yeah, and they used to do like grandparents breakfast and stuff like that, and sometimes they would want grandparents to sit in for kids that don't have grandparents. So this might be a way to get additional bonds for that type of stuff.
Okay,
great.
that's
I
great.
just wanna make
Thank
sure,
you.
does anybody on the phone have any questions for Jody? Nope, they're all good. Nobody else in the room?
So we're all set, so I will,
Yeah, I'll give you a call once I get there. I'll get all the
Thank you.
information together and give you a
thank
call.
you. And if any other ideas, I mean, like I said, I'm really passionate about this. I've been wanting to do this for many years. And, it's exciting to me.
Are you connected with the senior
No,
housing here?
no. No, but I mean, I can go up and knock on their door, right?
Yeah.
So.
You know, once you get something in place, make sure you get the seniors stuff.
That's great. This is true. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you very much.
That was
Thank
the
you.
adult daycare that you.
River Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. We used to have it there during the day.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Thank you all. for
Thank
your
you
time.
very much.
Really,
Thank you.
I'm open to any suggestions. I really would love to see this, like, just blow up.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, we got to start. We got a point person.
All
That's
right.
great. Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're over to Scott and Dan, and if you could just make sure I do that, or Carolyn, know it. One's for Dan, one's for you. All right, so Scott, over to you. And if we would just, for now, focus on your report, and then we'll catch the other stuff later in the meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, I think everybody had a chance to review my report. Are there any questions on the report itself or any of the updates?
Of course, I have a question.
I should just ask you, Mary, do you have any questions on the report?
So on, East End Park.
Yep.
Obviously, lots of stuff going on down there. As like fishing season is kicking off, will there be an ability this summer for them to get their boats in there somehow? I'm just trying to understand the timeline on that. Like, or like what that's gonna be.
I have to check on that for you. I do not
Okay.
know if we put, because of the time that we need to get it done. I mean, they've got to be done by November. It's gonna cost the village $125,000 in interest. So I don't know if we put restrictions like we did with Essentine at the time. I think they have the ramp open, but that's about it.
Right,
I
and I know the point is just to work as much as we can to allow people to use it, but there will be times, I'm sure, that it won't be safe.
But there will be a ramp for people to put their
Yeah.
boats. That was
Yeah.
my question, more like the fishermen, you know,
I
but that's like a big
I
draw.
believe they have to have the ramp open. Whether anything else is open,
Right, and the bathhouse would be open.
the bathhouse
right?
will
It
be
is
open for sure.
Yeah,
That
and the
definitely
swimming,
is.
because it's kind of over
Right.
on the other,
No, there won't.
yeah. Will there still be some parking, do you think? I mean, how?
That I don't.
Little
Limited.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just with everything that's there now.
Has anybody reached out about the bass tournament to let them know there's not gonna be parking there?
Yes, Bob is viewing is taking that back to the chamber after our last board meeting.
Okay. And I guess any of the other tournaments, I know that
Right.
was a big tournament last year, but any of the tournaments, I think we just need to publicize that, make sure that people are gonna expect to park, and they'll just
Right.
park up and down the street. And they'll be gone, and we'll be able to get. the
Right.
parking.
They can park in the town lot still. That's up the side street.
Yeah, they don't. but they can.
But that's gonna be their option, is what I'm saying. Like,
Mandy
they-
says, who lives across the street now?
I mean, we're just, maybe make it clear to them when Bob talks to them that this lot is here and put it on the map for them or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe some more signage for that, because it's not marked well.
Well, maybe the weekends that
Yeah,
of the tournaments, we can put some, Marty can put some temporary signs
Yeah.
out there that says boat parking this way and put
That's
them
a
up
good
there.
idea.
Yeah.
And then my only other question is, obviously, the shoreline remediation at Tibbetts Point Lighthouse is on hold. Not a surprise with all the snow we got. Do
Well,
we,
it's on
do we,
hold for other reasons, but
yeah, that was my question. So, yeah, it was, in February, it was on hold, and then March was just waiting direction for New York State. Can you give us a little more background on that?
Danny can because he's met with George, I believe.
Yeah. We met with George last week. Everything's gonna move forward in a timely manner, I believe. He does want a letter from the Coast Guard in support in the US Fish and Wildlife.
For finishing the shoreline?
Apparently, the original deed that 1968 that nobody reads said that any projects that are done on that property need his sign off or their agency sign off. There's been a number of projects done on that property since then that nobody's
Like the
questioned.
visitor center and the
I'm
pavilion.
not sure how he was made aware of this going on.
I think it was from the state parks, you know, the
State.
conversations with.
Right, with
New
them.
York State Parks.
So
Yeah.
when they were aware of it and realized that they weren't asked permission,
To
They
make the
asked-
shoreline.
they-
Which George
safe.
is that?
George Robinson from Federal Land Bureau, National Park Service.
It's
So
a,
they-
it's a CYA, basically.
So they issued a cease and desist until we,
Very
Marty
understandable.
and Danny and the engineers met with them last week on site. I think they realized that, like Marty said, like the situation was, the land was beyond the fence. It could have fallen in the river
Mhm.
and it's a safety issue. But, they just want to make sure that they.
So it's just
they're
a,
safe.
it's just a dot the i's, cross the t's, and then
We
that'll
had
get
to, we had to
finished.
give him all the plans and the seeker and the SHPO. And this goes back to the same problem that we had with every state agency. State Parks reached out to Marty and said, you didn't do SHPO and you didn't do, the seeker, and Marty
I know what
showed
a
them
seeker is, but now
Ma-
SHPO is a new one.
State Historic Preservation.
You don't wanna know.
But Marty had the emails where he sent them to her and it said this was acceptable. And then Marty said something about, our in-kind service, and she said, well, you didn't provide me a budget that said you were doing the work, and Marty sent her the email that she replied to and said, thank you for the budget, that shows you're doing this, so it's, again, an issue where
So it's just, yeah.
They had
it's a
everything.
CYA. It
they
makes
had
sense to
everything,
me
they
then.
didn't forward it on, and so now everybody's trying to cover themselves.
Yeah,
But after the meeting, Marty called me yesterday and said everything was provided to George and he should be signing off. Mike Galtieri from Bernier and Carr was working on Fish and Wildlife and the Coast Guard, and once they received those two sign offs, he would give us permission to complete the project.
great. I mean, we got snow anyway, so, I mean, it would have slowed us down.
And
but-
it's,
It's done.
It's
Two-thirds-
partially done, yeah. I mean, it
two-thirds to
looks
three-quarters
beautiful.
done.
I mean, it looks beautiful if you walk up there to see it. I'm really hoping they put a nicer fence, but that's another story.
So it's just a
Let's
matter
talk
of,
about the fence.
No,
Yes, I
they're
agree.
not putting chain link.
I agree with you on that one. A
Yeah,
Nice
it-
fence, not some chain link.
Ugliness, yeah.
so it's just a matter of the original deed said that we needed permission. No one's gotten their permission on any other project up there, so it's not something like myself coming into it or Marty being the new supervisor. We're not gonna go back and read a deed from 1968, like
No.
that.
I mean, it didn't even cross our minds that it had nothing to do with the structure. The
Like,
structures, we understood, but shoreline, I mean, he's in favor of it, they're in favor of it,
It's
it's
just-
just a matter of
That makes
gotta
sense.
do what you gotta do.
Thank you.
We are.
All right, actually, see, I only have 2 questions. Does anyone else have any questions about Scott's report?
Any updates about the Club Street, area? Cause I didn't see the report.
Yeah,
updates about Club Street. We are looking to schedule another public meeting middle of April with the committee. The Club Street Committee will have a meeting with our design consultant on site in the building. And then that evening have another public meeting to discuss where we're at. The intent is that, after that meeting, the town will authorize him to move forward with design and bid documents to move forward with a project. So we are moving to that point now.
Will that be part of this committee, that meeting, or is that?
Club Street is its own sub-steering committee. We asked them to report to us as sort of a subcommittee for us, but
It
they're
will
not,
be-
it's a separate entity.
It will be advertised as a public meeting though, so
Yeah.
when we select the date, there will be advertisements put out that there will be a public presentation and forum for discussion.
Okay, good.
Was there a ballpark date? you said?
Of April.
Was it the week of the 18th or the week after spring break, I think
Okay.
we were looking at.
I don't know.
Too many meetings,
I-
not enough time.
Hold
Okay,
on,
thank you
Pam,
very
let me
much.
look.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was so nice to have public participation. Thank you for
I
coming.
find all of this interesting.
Yeah.
Are you gonna take a tilt brochure?
Yes.
Yes,
we
please
will.
take a tilt picture.
And thank you very much for.
We're looking at,
the-
we're looking at the week of the 17th or the 24th. We haven't picked dates yet, but sometime in that 2-week time frame. Because we wanted to plan it around village board meeting and town board meeting and zoning board
And
meeting.
that's when the subcommittee will present.
The subcommittee will probably meet during the day with the consultant, and then that evening, some public presentation will be made
Yeah.
based on the
Right,
information.
Billy. Yeah,
Yep.
okay, cool. All right,
See you
thanks.
guys.
All right,
Thank
bye.
All right, over to officers' report. So I actually have a report this time. How rare is that? So first of all, I'd like to get a motion. So our lease is up. After we just put the sign up, our lease is up this month. We're trying to get a new lease. The owner of the building had some medical issues, and so we couldn't get the new lease before this meeting. What I was hoping you guys would be okay with is if the lease is exactly as it was last time, can I have a motion to get permission to just sign it and pay the rent so we can just keep going? Can I have a motion for that, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Mandy. And a second?
Second.
Thanks. And everybody in favor?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. I try not to ignore you guys. I keep trying to look over here so I don't ignore you on the Zoom. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about during my time around the thought of joining the chamber for $40. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we should take it a step further, and if there's businesses that can't afford it this fall, we sponsor a business. And we could have an application process or something, but I think it's, I know I don't know people's finances, but for $150, I think they've done a lot to the chamber and really evolved, so.
I do too.
That just, and you know, that's something we can just think about for fall, because if that's when they're renewing,
Yeah, I like that.
if that's something we can even legally do.
I was gonna say, you might wanna check if you legally can do that, because it's probably part of a gifting law. Like I know
Yeah.
that they couldn't do that. I think it might be against the gifting law, because you're giving a gift.
Okay.
Check, there might be a way around it, and, you know.
Yeah, good caution.
I would just,
And they'd all line up once the word got out.
I would just, I mean, it's a good idea, I just
No.
make sure you're doing it right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So if you guys are, I'm seeing some head shaking. How about somebody from the phone motioning to say, join the chamber?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Carol. And can I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Nadira. I just like to type other people's names in the minutes.
Mary, can I ask, I'm seeing the Carlton Island screen instead of the group.
I don't understand why this.
There we
There
go.
we go. Thank you.
Sorry, I keep hitting stop share everywhere and thank you for letting us know.
We just didn't want you to see us.
Yeah.
Hey.
So fetching tonight too. All right, that was all I had. Mandy, we do have childcare later. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I actually was at a meeting for work, and the person brought up Empower New York. It's an assistant home performance and energy stuff. So I just brought this more for, I thought it was interesting. There's Cornell Cooperative Extension is going to be getting some educators around this. They said they will be able to work with municipalities to help with energy efficiencies, so on. So I just thought I would pass these along to everybody here. I can email them to you all that are not in
Thank
person.
you.
But I don't know a ton about it, but it's just for home efficiency, and there's grants and funds available for it. So I'd pass that along.
Remind me when you get to childcare, about this idea of, Cornell Cooperative Extension and childcare. And I'm about that. Thank you, Mandy. Jeannie, anything, that you'd like in your report?
No, I think I'm gonna be in the old business section, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Carol, how about you? Anything at this level, or do you want to get right into finance?
No, I'll go right into finance.
All right. Over to you, Carol.
So we did receive the $60,000 from the town. So that's nice. Right now, our funds as of the end of February, our funds on hand are $140,196.82. Our expenditures for February were Scott's bill, 2812.50, legal fees of $221, office supplies of $29.70, and rent, two months of rent, $300. So that's where we stand, and the statements are posted in our folders. And we found, as I emailed you all, we found that the CD rates are ridiculous or too long to tie up our money. So even though I hate having that amount of money sitting there, if somebody has another idea, I'm open.
Well, maybe when we get, middle of the year and we've got more money coming in, from the village, we can look at it again. Maybe with all the interest rates going up, they might actually change.
Be nice.
We could hope, right? For everybody, for us and for everybody. All right, any questions for Carol?
Nope.
All right, over to Joe. Joe, RFP.
Yeah, so we had a finance meeting on Tuesday, Carol, Mary and I, and we did the RFP for auditing finance stuff. Mary found a few places, the lighthouse and town, who they use.
Yeah,
We'll send it directly to them.
yeah, I did reach out to both the village and town, both use Bowers. The lighthouse uses,
Gardner?
no, it's a J word. And they were a nonprofit. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But I left messages. Obviously, it's the worst time to try to get a hold of an accounting group because guess what? It's tax season. So I left messages for both of them explaining that we were going out for an RFP, that if they were interested in participating, to call me and then I would direct them to where Joe has put it.
So I put it on the website, and that's later, but I added a news page to the website. I put an article there about the RFP, so it's on the website, it's public knowledge, because it's public data. Then I added an article about the grant we received, quite blurb with the link to the New York State site. I'm gonna flesh that out more this week. But,
Yeah, and then you got us the sign on, which came through, by
yeah,
the way. You want to talk about that?
sign.
No, the sign, no, the sign on for the,
Oh, right, right.
for where we're gonna post the RFP.
Yes, they approved that today. Everyone should have got the email from them. Yep. I was gonna do that this afternoon, but it's pretty involved. It's like a 20-page step towards some of the tonight. And that'll be posted on the New York. What's it called?
Your contract reporting?
Yeah.
So you got on there, okay?
Yes, we got the login approved, so.
Yeah, thanks for consulting on that. So, yeah,
Everybody checks it.
so the
Yes,
good news is, hopefully the two local groups will get back to me, right? And I basically said, town and village use you, lighthouse use you, we want to, which is not really soliciting. I was trying to be careful that we weren't soliciting, but just sort of like heads up, it's out there. And then this portal will put it out to all over New York State. So this will be our first time really getting to exercise the RFP process. And I think, and actually the template that governance did, I mean, it was a pretty easy walkthrough when the three of us were on the phone. I mean, I thought it really, I mean, it helped that you kind of use, auditing as an example. That was very helpful. But it was good. I mean, the format flowed really well. So that was good. And we're asking for it to be back to us by March 31st. So we're looking for a quick turnaround time, which we might have been aggressive when I can't get these people to call me back, but we'll see.
Do we have deadlines that we need it to hire somebody by?
There's, in May, we have to do, what do we have to do, Carol, in May?
I believe we need to file our 990 tax return for 2022, even though there wasn't hardly anything, but I think we have to file it because we were in our organization.
So we're trying to get that done.
And we want to get the 501c3 filed, and we want to get the New York State tax exempt filed. And all of those things were in the RFP as well.
Yeah, things are good, so hopefully we'll get some responses. Any questions on that? Good job, Finance Committee. Okay, governance, so hopefully all of you saw that Sharon has resigned as of today, which is unfortunate. She was a village appointee. Thank you. I struggled with the word in the email. I'm like, what do I call this? And it's a 2-year term. So, our business process is to write a letter or an article for the Thousand Island Sun. But it's also for all of us to look under every rock and bush for anybody that we think would be a good candidate. I don't think they have to be a resident of the village. I mean, we didn't say that specifically. We just said the village would be who would approve who we recommend.
You want the best person, period.
Yeah,
And I think
okay.
that's an issue.
Yeah, so, if you guys have any ideas of anybody that you think we should approach, I mean, pop me an email. We'll have to look when that person comes on board, like who's gonna then lead governance. Will we have this person lead governance? I mean, governance had the big thing around doing the RFP. I think they just have to meet on the bylaws again. So I don't know. So the other members of governance are Nadira and Mandy. At this point.
Are
And I
they gonna
think,
get into some skill sets when they advertise?
well, I think we have
specific
to think about that. I mean, what Sharon brought to the table was she had some project management
or-
skills.
Absolutely.
Which was a real positive thing. We certainly can put that in there. I think maybe even some leadership skills. What else might you guys add to that?
In terms of governance, maybe a nice to have is some policy experience, just like
Okay.
drafting policies and stuff.
That's a great suggestion. Bless you.
Now, I thought when when we were first setting up this board, that you had multiple applications, much more than the board.
We
I mean,
did.
are those, did we ever comb through those and see if anybody who wasn't chosen is an interest now?
Yeah, I think we kind of did, and I think we will again, and I think those. Did we have anybody apply for?
No, we did not. When we put the article out, we didn't get anybody for Jeannie's position.
Yeah.
Which is why we sort of, said to Jeannie, hang on, we gotta make sure there isn't any other candidates.
So,
Even
yeah,
though
I
we
mean-
wanted her right away.
I don't think we specifically contacted them, but. And I'm not saying there is anybody there worthy of doing it. Me personally, I'd like to see somebody that lives in the town or the village, so. Because there's gonna be times where we're not gonna have a quorum.
Yeah, I mean, that was my thought as well.
Yeah.
I'm just very concerned. I mean, I was like, when Carol called, messaged me, I was like, oh, gosh,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
gotta have a
we all-
quorum.
We all have other things to do.
Right, and people get sick. Or they
And
have-
people get COVID.
Yeah, well, but enough about you.
But the more that are available to show up here, I think,
Yeah, no, I agree.
not that that's gotta be an end all, but it would certainly be
I think it would be good. No, I
Yeah.
agree with you. So, I mean, that was why I was asking, because I just seem to know more year-round
Does anybody
people.
know anybody that'd be interested? That we know?
Well, we're recording this and we're gonna put it on the website, so we might not wanna do that in a public meeting, is what I was thinking.
One suggestion I might make is that maybe we go to the village town, the village municipality and say, we have this opening, we want to solicit a village resident. Do you have any recommendations of individuals that are volunteering or very active in the village that might be an addition to our board? And, do some networking that way, where you're not identifying a specific name, but you're soliciting people that know people.
Yeah, great suggestion, and
I'll
Pam,
take that to the
and
next
Pam will
board.
take that to the next board meeting for the town.
Right.
Right, village, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. All right, so for skills in the article, and I'll obviously draft something up and send it to you guys for edits, but project management, policy experience, and leadership skills. Do you guys think of anything else that should be sort of core? When you see it, you can always edit it. That'll get us started, but I'll take that as an action, unless someone else wants to do it. Okay. All right, so really no update from, governance. I don't think there's anything else, right, Mandy and Vera? No. Club Street, you know, as Scott said, they're kind of waiting till the end of March, to meet again as a subcommittee, because I attended that meeting. And then it's mid-April, so there wouldn't be any report there. Okay, website, Joe.
Yes, we have that new, news page. Anyone have any suggestions on what should go on there?
I have a great press release from the governor's office that I got today, but I can't find it online. I just have it in my email. So as soon as I find it online, I will send it to you.
Great. I can make other people users on the website to add articles you think pertains to the town and what we're doing. Or they can just forward it to me and I'll do it.
Feel the pressure, Joe, feel the pressure.
A lot of the compliance stuff is done. I added the, board members page that everyone sent me their resume and feedback on. And a lot of what's left is just financials, but since we started in 2023, a lot of that's gonna be done later in the year. So I think we're pretty clear on that.
Right.
So Joe, I'm posting the financials in our Google Drive. Are you gonna grab them from there and put them online?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Tracy and just make sure everything's done when it needs to be done. I don't wanna do it too early or too late.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll just grab them off the drive as we do.
and it would also be nice, again, that's part of the RFP for the accounting firm. I want them to look at what I'm doing and say, yeah, that's what you should be doing, or no, they should look like this, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we'll talk and I'll make sure they're final version before we post anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the website's pretty good. The signs on the door.
Looks great.
A little bigger
Did you
than-
use the office today?
I did not. I was in union negotiations since 7:45.
Okay. No, that's okay. I was just, but you have a key.
I have a key.
All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which.
Bring a shovel, because I haven't shoveled off.
We started at 7:45 and I left at
I think
4:30
you're our
to be here
official
on
keeper
time.
of the files. That's our insurance policies.
You? Yeah.
Just keep handing stuff out as I hit it on the agenda and trip over my iPad. All right, thank you. All right, Dan, town.
Oh, we talked about Tibbetts. The mayor and the supervisor met with Ron Trottier, and we are hundreds of thousands apart. So we're gonna regroup with Edgewater, try to work a leverage on a partnership on the Anchor Marina if he'd work with us on the other two. So we're still looking at avenues and ways to make things happen. We did get word that the sign off on Captain Jack's has not been executed yet, but they have agreed to do so. So
I don't know what that means. I'm
we were waiting for clear title to be able to, for the town to be able to purchase that, and we've got word that it's gonna move forward. When, I don't know. But at least,
Oh, so I thought the state agreed that we were gonna use the money that was gonna buy Captain Jack's to buy something else. Is that changed?
doesn't matter because we didn't specify where
The state agreed if we did not buy Captain Jack's and bought Ron's instead, we could move the money that way without any change, but the intent was the town was still gonna move forward Captain Jack's, whether we use the grant money there or the other lot.
Ron's not.
And Ron's,
We're nowhere. with-
Okay.
We're nowhere with Ron.
I'm just trying to follow the story.
and it's not,
Yep.
it's not grant money to buy it, it's the local match. So whatever property they buy first would be the match that they need to provide to do the work.
So whichever one can come up quicker might be the way we still go.
I would say so, because regardless of Ron sold or not, the town was still moving forward with the purchase of Captain Jack's because it was on the books and they
Right.
went motion. That's
So
my
this could go
understanding.
either way still, just
Could.
because whatever goes slower.
Well,
Or an agreement.
they're nowhere close with Ron, so that's going to be sometime. Ron wants a lot more money than it's appraised for. $1 million more than it's appraised for, so that's why we're nowhere. close.
Oh,
And I would, you know. Yeah,
boy.
anyway,
Okay. Anything else?
I don't believe so.
All right, great, thanks, Dan. Pam? Village.
We've been busy. I don't want to go down the whole list, trying to think of things that are applicable to this group. Jerry had the initial conference with the state for New York Forward. We still don't know when the first meeting will be. There'll be several meetings. And Marty and the mayor met with the DOT to talk about our road diet. Several years ago, we were supposed to be in some queue to get help from the DOT to work on that, and according to the DOT right now, there's no money available and there's no existing queue. So that wasn't really positive, but it just means we'd have to look at some additional funding maybe to do.
And I sent you the stuff about the,
Traffic safety highway,
yeah, the
Yeah.
federal, there's a federal grant I sent.
Tuesday.
Scott.
yeah,
Great.
traffic safety enhancement grant, it's usually announced March, opens in April, May, and due in June or July. So
But it's
it is on the radar.
definitely to be for safety of pedestrians and,
Okay,
and it's federal and there's no match.
Right.
It's
Okay.
just pure money, so. Serendipity to be driving in your car and listening to NPR and said, wait a minute, what did they just say?
Right, right.
Go home, Google it, email Scott. So maybe that'll help.
I think that's probably
Okay.
what's applicable.
Good.
to the board.
Mandy,
Hard to know.
Mandy, childcare.
No real updates on childcare. Nothing
So
more.
on the news,
Yeah.
or they advertise about Cornell Cooperative Extension and like after school stuff. Is there a way to get any of that here?
We look too good at paper. It goes back to that.
Mm.
The grant money, we can't get it because of our tax base.
Did we ever just like try to do it with just the village and not the town?
It's Thousand Islands. They have to do it in Clayton, Cape, the whole town. It's the whole school
Goes by your
district.
school district.
They can't break it out.
Got it. Oh, well. All right, job description. So Jeannie sent us, via email, a drafted job description, for executive director. I wonder if folks had had a chance to look at it and what comments or thoughts they might have on it. Okay, anybody? The only thing, Jeannie, I looked at it and, one thing on the related professional experience, it would
Yeah.
be, is there a way we can break it between required and preferred?
Well, yes, you can. You can just change the priorities of the bullets. We can put, required and then have those bullets first and
Yeah.
then preferred afterwards. Some of the language that I added to this, what I did is I went out and I benchmarked about 6 different non-for-profit executive directors. And I looked at commonality of language. Obviously, this is a contract position, so it's not a W-2 employee, but this was what I found was common. So that's why I used the language I did. And again, depending on the board's wishes, we can change the related professional experience any way that you would like. My recommendation is not to make it too complicated, because with candidates, if it's got, 6 different items, they probably won't apply. So keep it as generic as you can to expand the candidate net for our consideration. Because probably the most difficult piece of this, it's a contract position. So we're only going to be looking at individuals that are 1099 certified. So that eliminates a whole bunch of candidates that are not, that would not have that certification.
Now, I know I had sent Carol, there was some things, and actually, Scott, what got me thinking about it was when we were talking about hours and being able to require people to be hours, and if they were a 1099, we couldn't do it. There was one of our previous meetings, we're having a conversation about that. And so I went out and I was looking, you know, at like, what's the law on that, right? What's the New York State law on that? So I knew more about it. And as I read through it, I got a little nervous that some of the things that we were asking the executive director to do, and it was more at the spreadsheet level, right? When we had the spreadsheet level of tasks, that would this be something? And Carol, I sent you the information. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but it felt like we were kind of borderline on whether this, not that we should have an employee, but should we hire them through a third party, like a Kelly Services, or, you know, I do work for Hershey under a company called Checks and Balances. I did call them to say, how does that work? Can you put like a meter on it and say when it hits, you know, $30,000, we're done, you know, kind of a thing. They said they could do all of that. And I said, you know, we're too early. I just wanted to know. But Carol, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that sort of contracted versus Kelly Services, Checks and Balances kind of a role.
Well, Mary, go ahead, Carol.
I mean, I think ideally we're looking for someone probably based on the contracted employee, non-employee, is we're looking for someone who does this for other agencies is kind of what we're looking for. Kind of like, you know.
I agree. I thought that we were looking more for a person that was a consultant, more so than an administrative employee. In that the points that were taken at the last meeting regarding the strategic planner, thinker, networking with respected agencies. So I really constructed this with that thought in mind, in building and developing and sustaining new and existing relationships. So to this board's consideration, I think we need to think about that. What is the primary contribution you want this position to provide? If it's just executive administrative, you know, my background, I owned a staffing firm. If it's only going to be administrative, but I really liked Scott's point that we wanted this person to be a networker and to engage with various agencies and state municipalities and such. I think you're looking more at a consultant.
Right, and I wasn't saying that I didn't agree with the consultative part of this role. What I was saying is reading through the things in New York State, and there are these other pieces where we would like them in the office at certain times, that as I read through that information, I just want to make sure we don't get in trouble with, you know, trying to circumvent someone in a W-2 position, even though they're not our W-2 person, versus a 1099. And it's just a caution because of some of the things Scott said. And when I went out and read this, the New York State law stuff made me nervous.
Well, as long as we're not telling them the hours they have to work, if they're telling us, you know, we tell them how many hours and they're saying, I'm going to do it these days. And they just tell us. That's, I think, the difference, Mary.
That is very much
and
a
that's
difference.
fine. I mean, Carol, that's if you're comfortable having read that stuff, it was just, it raised a flag for me. And I just wanted to make sure that we were going.
The other thing too, you do not get off the hook when you use a temporary staffing firm. You're a co-employer. So you still have co-employer obligations. And so therefore, even in that case, after they exceed 1,000 hours, they could become deemed a leased employee. So no matter what you do in New York State, there's gray matter when it comes to the employee-employer relationship. Where in a consultant, a 1099, or there is a distinct line between the legalities of the employer of record. So that's kind of how I approached it.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to raise it, you know, because it was
Yep.
something I'm not familiar with. Okay, so how do we want to move forward on this? Because do we want to just punt it till the next meeting for a discussion and people really take a look at it and make sure it is what we need it to be?
Sounds good to me. I didn't get a chance to
Yeah, I
comment.
haven't gone through it in detail either.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we put that on the agenda for the next meeting? Obviously, you know, email is great. So anything where you guys have comments or questions, if we can respond to Jeannie. And like I said, Jeannie, I thought it looked great. The only thing is I kind of like the required versus preferred in the list, but that's just a personal preference. Okay. So focus group format. So Jeannie sent us a bunch of stuff to read through on focus groups, and Scott sent us yesterday, I think. It was yesterday. Some idea of sort of the potential focus group. So I don't know how you two want to kind of go through this. I don't know if you guys have talked offline or no, you haven't.
We have not. No, we have not. First, I want to just go back to, I did redo that SWOT format. So I hope that was helpful for everyone to kind of frame their mind as to what were the priorities back several years ago. And then I liked what Scott did in that he kind of identified some priorities for the board to consider. And then Scott, you can certainly elaborate more on that if you would, please.
Yeah, like, what I sent you was just like a list of groups that I think we should interact with. And I know we talked about doing them on Zoom, but I think we also should, the people that are here, have them in the room, because there's some activities like, some other planning, like comprehensive plans that I'm involved with, like we put out maps and we have people put the things that they like, the things that they don't like, and comment why on the map. So you get so if you do that with every organization, you know, like where the seniors are coming from, what parts of the community they like and what parts they want to improve on. There's some other activities where you just roll out like a large piece of paper and you start with the thing in the middle, like senior support groups, and everybody comments on that. And then you comment off of that. So like if somebody put a comment, like they need more exercise activities, and then somebody could comment off of that,
Like a mind map kind of thing.
yeah, like a mind map kind of thing, like getting these groups to sit down at the table with you and go through that will give you an idea as you guys try to do your master plan or what your vision of the group. Each of these groups will give you that type of idea if you have them in the room and sit down and you can go through those kind of exercises, you get a better feedback. And that's what I was looking at, you know, the ability to sit down one-on-one with them and what do you need? What do you need to
Have you
to
ever,
feel better?
have you ever used anything? So I've often done facilitation, where, you know, so you kind of get like, you know, the big group and everybody gives you all the information. And then you sort of have them prioritize coming out of it. Like I've used Dotmocracy as a method for that. Which is basically, you know, everybody gets 3 dots. And then you say, okay, you know, you can put all 3 dots on one idea, or you can put 2 here and 1 there, but then you sort of say, the consensus of the room is, these are the top 3 ideas. And then you don't just get a bunch of spaghetti thrown at the wall. I mean, do you do something like that towards the end of the event?
I think that would be after you have these 7 or 8 individual meetings, you have a larger plan and have that public presentation, invite them all back and say, hey,
Okay.
these are the keys from each group. Like, what do you see as, you know, like, you're not going to take all 10 things the senior says, but if you got 2 or 3 from them and 2 or 3 from the youth groups and
Yep.
then just have them as a bigger group
That's
say,
great.
this
That's
is
good.
where everybody's at. Where do we prioritize these?
When I looked at your groups,
There may be some I missed too, or
well,
some that
but
can
I
go
mean, there were
together.
just a
but-
couple. So one, I thought it might be helpful if we got something like new residents. Like, so people who have recently chosen Cape Vincent as a place to live, maybe in the last year, 18 months. To say what drove them to, you know, I mean, certainly it could be, I love this house, or I inherited a house from my mother, or whatever. But there might be some, you know, so what made them not buy in Clayton, not buy in Chaumont, but they bought here? So that was another group. On where you put the lighthouse board, I was thinking, what do others think? It might be good to have the officers of several of
It
the
might be
organizations.
nonprofits. Like,
Yeah,
instead of
like
just
I'm
Lighthouse,
thinking like
nonprofit.
Lions Club, Arts Council, Improvement League, you know, so sort of those volunteer, and those were the ones that could think.
So instead of just Lighthouse, like nonprofit service group.
Yeah, and there could probably, and those were the ones I could think of, right? So Improvement League, Lions Club, Arts Council, Lighthouse.
Yep,
There might
that would
be
make more
others.
sense.
What do others think about the sort of list? Anybody think of anybody? I'm not trying to make too many. I was just trying to think of other constituencies.
I think you always want to include the clergy and the faith leaders of the community. Because they have insight that on other items that might be important.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure about the medical focus group. Tell me more what you were thinking about there, because I mean, like, really, all we have is the clinic.
All you
For
have is,
people coming to talk about that topic, like that's their focus.
all you have
right?
is a clinic, but I think like bringing people, like as part of that swap, like people wanted more medical services, people wanted a pharmacy. So even if you bring in outsiders that are involved in that to hear what the community wants, it might entice somebody else to move into the community. So not
gotcha.
just the medical people that are here, but maybe somebody from Samaritan, maybe somebody from Carthage Hospital, maybe somebody from River Hospital, and bring them to the table and say, this is what the community's needs here. What can we do to work with you? Like another community I'm working with, we just reached out to the hospital about a school-based clinic. There's rural funding available for them to put school-based clinics in rural schools. Like Carthage has one in Carthage High School, they have one in Beaver Falls. So there's an actual clinic right in the school that kids can go down and utilize and be seen by a PA or a doctor. So not necessarily bringing just the medical people from the village, but bringing people from outside and saying, this is what we need in Cape. How can we partner with you? And
that's
make
the
this
same with
happen?
education, probably.
Correct.
Yep, got it. Okay, I
So
just didn't
people from
understand
your
that.
school, people from BOCES, you know, people from outside that are involved in education that can be part of the discussion and may be able to offer assistance that we're missing.
So I guess I'm with that conversation, or is this, the focus groups, are we looking for residents or outside people to tell us what they can do? 'Cause
I'm thinking both, like,
Both, okay.
I'm thinking 4 or 5 key residents or business owners, and then the IDA and people from outside that, you know, like a 12-person roundtable, you know, some locals and some from outside that can hear what's going on and give a different input or vision of what we could do.
I mean, I feel like we have to get this going because we can't do our strategic plan until, I mean, you know, the SWOT analysis is great, and I think we're all in agreement. We're not going to get a whole lot of things that might be different, although some of these things are probably done or have been done. But it's 5 years old, right? So it's time to do another one. Does everybody kind of in agreement on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be our next
So
steps?
do you want me to pick one and just have an initial meeting and get it going?
Well, I think I'd
I
like
think
to,
we gotta create the map, though. You gotta create the process. And I think that board needs, because you gotta be consistent. Any group you engage with, it has to be the same process. So that the output of that focus group, we get the same format or template. That way we're consistently asking the same questions. Because if you don't do that, if you're not disciplined to it, then you're gonna get all different inputs. And then again, you're back to, you know, a variety of different thoughts. So I think the next step is really building out that process of how we want to engage. And what are we asking? You know, I don't think it's tough to do. I just think we need to be disciplined in doing it. And you want to do it in person versus like I won't be back till the end of May, so that's too long.
No,
So
but, I mean, if we do it in person, we can involve people on Zoom as well. So like if
right,
we met here for a whole
Be a
day and
hybrid
had a
like
meeting
this.
every hour for the morning and like 2 meetings in the morning, 2 meetings in the afternoon, we could pull the owl out and have people that are not here involved as well. But
right.
I think some of the activities, it's better to have them here in person.
So I guess my thought is, and just throw it out, would be that you and Jeannie get together and then come back with like, this is the buttoned up plan, like with a project plan, like, you know, we're gonna start with this group, we're gonna, this is how we're gonna get the invites out. I mean, like a plan. I mean, what does everybody think about that, particularly Jeannie and Scott, but.
Yeah, her and I can set up
Yeah,
Zoom meetings
yeah.
for her when she's available and just,
Yeah.
have a couple of Zoom meetings over the next couple of weeks and then have a plan for you for the
I don't think it's difficult, Scott.
Yeah.
no, I don't either.
Yeah, and I mean, if you guys feel that waiting until the April meeting is too late to bring it to the board, because we're gonna wanna get this going, we could always do a Zoom working session, right? Just some other time, do a Zoom working session. We could just focus on what you guys tell us, we give you feedback, and then off it goes. And so let me know if you need to do that, and then we could try to see what time might work for folks to go through it. Or we can wait till April, depending on what you guys look as a project plan.
Okay. Well, I'll shoot her an email and see when she's available.
I mean, next week, Scott, we'll get together.
Okay,
And it here, okay.
that works.
Everybody with that? Excellent, okay. All right, so strategic partnership meetings, help me here, because I think the presentation Mandy put together we'll use in the focus groups, or are we still talking about more strategic partnership? I'm just confused on how those two things are melding together now.
I think, to me, the strategic partner meeting is not the focus groups, it's key people that we want to partner with. So it's your county legislator, the Jefferson County IDA. You know, I think there's some key partners that we need to just bring to the table and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We need to,
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that the right, like, use the presentation that Mandy did for the focus groups, right? Because there's a part of your plan that says,
just introduction, you know?
I don't know if we need the full.
I don't want to, I don't want to take up a big part of that focus group to do a full presentation.
No.
I want to do a quick introduction. This is what we're doing.
okay,
I agree.
And I don't, we don't need the board there. It's just her and I, and if you want to sit in, you're more than welcome to sit in, but I think it's just this is what the LDC is. This is what we're doing. This is why you're at the table, and let's just start.
We value your input, and then we go through the process that we determine. And you really do not want a focus group to be longer than an hour,
Yeah. no, for
because
sure.
then you lose attention and motivation to be a participant. So you really need to be, get to what we're seeking and collect the data and move on. So.
all right, so did we all like sort of invite Tilt? Have a have this kind of a thing, or did we want to have a sort of a separate meeting that has, the IDA, or IDC, or whatever they're called? And Bobby Cantwell and I guess, because one way I thought about doing it, but I don't know if it would be fast enough, is that, and that's why I did the strategic partnership document, like these are all the people we should have strategic partnership with. And then what I thought we could do to kind of streamline it a bit would be like, let's say Bobby Cantwell, I'll make him up, right? I'm the liaison for him. And so I set up a meeting with him. I have a Zoom call with him. I take him through the presentation. This is what we're about. We'd like you then to come to a board meeting and do what Tilt did. You know, this is how, so they have a chance to sort of think about us, as opposed to having a mixed group of, you know, Tilt and Bobby Cantwell and the IDA and.
I agree. I think doing one or two at one, it's too long of a board meeting, first of all. And, you know, like, I don't feel that Christy really had an understanding of what we were looking for from the chamber. You know,
Yeah.
I felt bad for her. I really did feel bad because she had no idea what we were, you know, if we had a liaison where we said we want to establish a strategic partnership with you, what are you like? What are your initiatives at the chamber? What's happening there? You know, and I think she just didn't have an understanding of what we were looking for. And maybe she did.
She just really wanted us to join. It was
Yeah.
pretty.
Well, but again, if there's a liaison, that can be determined, you know, so.
So, I mean, that's one approach. Another approach is to have a group meeting. We go through the presentations and then they tell us how they want to partner with us. My only concern about that is for a lot of them, I'm not going to get enough depth. Like, you know, IDA is not going to want to sit through Bobby Cantwell's presentation and Tilt's presentation. So I'm trying to think of how we streamline it for them. But Scott, I see your face. Tell me what you think differently. It's okay.
I'm just thinking, I don't want a presentation from each of them. I want you guys to have all them in the room together and say, this is what we're doing. How can we partner? And their networking will help you guys in the long run. So like if you have somebody from Wozniak's group here and Scott Gray's group, and they think, okay, we can get you into this grant or IDA grant, they can work together and partner with you. I think that's just my thought. That was my thought with the strategic plan, is to get them all in the room together and let them have like a networking session and connection. Like, this is what we're starting. This is why we're doing it. This is what we want to accomplish. Where can we start building those relationships and partnerships?
Yeah, I
And
guess
they
maybe it's an
Maybe
board.
they come back to you at a board meeting and say, okay, we think this is gonna work, let us give you this presentation. But I think for that initial strategic plan, you want everybody in the room together so there can be questions and they can hear the other people's questions and answers, and they maybe can guide us in a different direction.
Maybe it's just because it feels too early to me, because we don't have a strategic plan. I mean, all we could do is take them through, like, you know, here's our mission statement and here's our pillars and, you know, and here's some things that the town and village have done because we don't have any of our own projects. So I was thinking.
Maybe, I like Nadra's suggestion. Maybe it should be a focus group of those strategic partners.
Right.
Yeah, I think if, since we don't have a specific ask yet, throwing out, you know, those questions that you just posed, Scott, like letting people know what our mission, our vision is, potential projects, and getting their feedback, getting them all in a room, just sounds like a focus group to me.
Yeah.
And it's low stakes, there's no expectations, it's more brainstorming, and we're recording all that information. And there's not an expectation that there's a specific ask because we're not at that stage yet.
Right.
Would they just be part of the business owners in county IDA?
There would be a- Yeah,
Political or.
well, there was, yeah.
Elected officials workshop, including county reps. I mean, we could bring them all in for that.
Yeah.
But like
Right.
Tilt would be a part of the tourism one, chamber and tourism, you'd include Tilt and TI tourism and those groups that we've met with before.
Right.
I really like that. I just think there should be some initial thing from a board member to just sort of say, we're here. This is kind of what we're, you know, just sort of an initial thing. But if you guys think that's not necessary, then we won't do it, but. I mean, what are other thoughts?
How were they contacted? I mean,
Well,
Jody
we
contacted
had,
me and-
yeah, well, we had the strategic partnerships. Tilt was on there. Carol put her name down. Carol, as the liaison, contacted them, said, you know, we're this, and we'd like you to come and talk to us. So there was you know, so Carol, at least what I was thinking is even after moving forward, Carol's sort of our tilt person, right? So that there's, you know, it's like with Jody, you know, Mandy's her person now, right?
About anyone, I think that should happen with the IDA, the county IDA. Like right away, like we should be inviting Dave Zembeck and Marshall and saying. We need to have a meeting, whether it's on Zoom and you guys introduce yourself and say, this is what we're starting to do. The county has a number of development programs that we could be sharing with the local businesses because they're not reaching out to them or you know what I mean? There's programs already that exist that we could be promoting as a local IDA and just assisting people to access at the county level. For economic development.
So would you suggest we have them at our April meeting?
Does it have to be as formal of a meeting? Can it be a meet and greet and just
That's what I
like
mean. It
at
doesn't have to
a
be a meet
local
and greet.
restaurant? Like bring them down, have some appetizers. I don't know if we can pay for that, but like,
Or just go to their office, say a couple of
Really?
us, can we schedule a time and we'll meet you in Watertown so you don't have to come out here? Like, can a couple of us just come down and introduce ourselves and have
Oh, that's a
a
good
conversation about the
Yeah.
agency?
Yeah, see, that's, I'm thinking some kind of an initial meet and greet kind of a thing, you know, so.
I would do the IDA for sure, and I'd reach out to Bobby Cantwell for sure and meet with him and just have those conversations with those two groups, you know,
Yeah.
that group and Bobby right away. Because I mean, at the county level, there's things going on now that they could assist you with.
Mhm.
You mentioned some other names there too, didn't you?
Marshall Weir is the assistant executive director at the JCIDA and Dave Zembeck's the executive director. So, I mean, I'd call the IDA and just say, Dave, it's Mary, I'm the chairman, you know, I'm the president of the newly formed Cape LDC. Is there a time that 2 or 3 of us can come and sit down with you and your couple of your staff members and just talk about what we're trying to accomplish and who we are?
Okay,
So that should be the first.
I would reach out to him
It does
first.
seem
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sense.
and, you know, I think there's enough in that presentation to make whoever makes that phone call dangerous, right? They can speak to, you know, somewhat consistent language. I'm happy to do that, but I don't think it should only be me, which, you know, so I guess the question is, first of all, maybe Scott, you can give us a prioritized list of who you think we need to meet with. And then we can, you know, I can make the phone calls and set up the meetings and do all that kind of
And
stuff,
determine
but
who's
you're
gonna
throwing
go.
out names that I don't know these people at all.
And if
Yeah.
you feel more comfortable, I mean, I know Dave well, I could call and say, Dave, what days do you have available that we can come meet with you?
Yeah,
And I could make that initial contact and then bring you and introduce you if that.
yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful. I mean, is everybody else comfortable with that? With,
Yeah.
you know, Scott and I sort of making that initial meet and greet thing and then bringing that back as a report, you know, I mean, I can type up email reports to you guys on how the meetings go and does that?
I'm
feel
totally
like-
comfortable with that. I think it's a good approach.
Right.
And if we share
Okay,
the
yeah, the
dates,
thumbs
if
up,
one
thank
other
you.
member wants to attend with us and you're available, just email and say, hey,
Yeah.
I can make that Tuesday meeting. I'll meet you at the IDA.
All right,
All
Sure,
right.
anybody who could make it, really, right?
Right, yeah, no,
Right.
if it's 2 or 3 of you that want to come, then, you know.
And doing that meeting first, then it does kind of line us up to maybe have the business owners be our first focus group. Because it seems like that's been an area that's an issue, trying to get them on board.
Yeah.
Good
Just my thought.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. All right. So the action out of that is, Scott, you're gonna get some initial potential dates with the key people.
Yep.
We'll line up at least my calendar, your calendar, and their calendar. We'll send it out to the rest of the board. Anybody else who can attend and would like to attend certainly can do that. And then I will make sure that out of those meetings, I create some kind of a report back to the board so people know what was discussed. And then we can have a discussion item on the thing where if you guys have questions.
so the presentation though, it was missing some past grant stuff. So if you're using that, it's fine. I just want to make sure that you're aware. There's definitely some stuff that. needs
Yeah,
to be
so
added.
Scott, I need you to look at that and add whatever is missing. So it is in the review folder on the
LDC
Google Drive.
presentation. This one?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
and then we'll kind of use that. And I'm not necessarily saying we're gonna bring a laptop in
No, if you put it on a thumb drive, they'll probably, if we go to the IDA, they'll have a screen right there and you could go through it.
Yeah, and we could go through it, so. Okay, excellent, good. Old business is done. We're trying to get through this, guys. All right, new business. Does anyone have any new business?
Came up at the town board meeting, if there was anything that our board could do to assist the ambulance squad. The ambulance squad has purchased the building next to the bank. There's gonna be major renovations in there. That's gonna be.
The
their-
insurance thing?
that-
Oh, okay, okay.
That's gonna be their new home. They asked me, I said, I don't have a clue if there's anything we could do to help them, but I'm throwing it out there.
What kind of help do they need? Do you know?
Well, financial,
Monetary?
grants,
Is that in the downtown or something far out? No.
They are right downtown. It's like-
Right, right, so
Oh,
is that, I didn't know how,
Oh,
like, far
no.
downtown.
it is
that's-
No,
considered
that could be
downtown.
part of the New York Forward. It was originally part of the New York Forward across the street when,
Right.
which
Ewing,
was gonna do a project for them.
right?
Okay.
The
They
other
were-
thing is they would qualify for USDA community facilities, which is low interest loan and grant. There's a grant portion of it and they give you the low interest loan as well over 20 years, the life of the building or whatever. So they would qualify for that as they're obviously got it. They're a 501c3 nonprofit or.
They are.
So they would qualify for that. They would have to have engineering done and then approved by USDA for the building and everything, but that's what it's for, community facilities.
So would the next step be for,
I can get Dan the community facilities information, if somebody from the rescue squad wants to reach out to USDA and have a meeting with them and just sit down and say, this is what we're doing, can you help us? And then if they agree that that's the step they want to take, I mean, we could probably help them with the application.
Dan, did you say somebody from the ambulance came to your meeting
No,
requesting help? No, it came up with what could you do for them?
Timmy Maloney he's the
Okay.
liaison with the
Okay.
ambulance squad, and
Yeah.
he actually asked if it's something that we might be able to assist. I mean, they're gonna have to put up a 2-stall garage, I mean, there's gonna be some serious money involved. And obviously, we've gotten over the hump to fund the ambulance, and
Next step.
Yeah.
this might be a good PR move for us if we can
Right.
just assist.
so the next step on this is Scott's gonna forward Dan some information. He can talk to the ambulance people, and then if Scott can be of assistance in applying. Right?
I mean, do we wanna take it as a project? I don't care, I'm just
Yeah.
throwing it out
Yeah,
there.
I mean, well, I think it might be,
Get
does
some
anybody
credit
have
for it.
any angst about at least getting us to the point where Scott gives them the information to Dan, Dan shares it, and then they reach out, and at that point, we could decide whether we want to use Scott's resources to assist in the grant?
I would say, Dan, you don't want to be involved in the grant. You don't want to be the lead or accepting the money because whoever
No,
does
I'm
that
not.
has to pay all the bills and then get reimbursed.
No, I'm not.
We can help them
proposing
with the application and I'll send you the general information that you can
Alright.
forward to them. I just sent you a link to it.
that. Okay,
And then if they, so, I
If
mean,
they
I'm
want to
thinking,
help.
and if then they bite,
Right.
then then we have a decision to say, is this
Right.
something that we want Scott to spend?
Use some of his hours.
Use some of his hours. The other thing, was there's a $2,000 Northern New York
Community Foundation. it's
that
called
the Lighthouse
Program.
Board, was interested in applying for, and would you guys be okay if Scott gives them some guidance on how to apply for that? I don't know that that'll get anywhere. The emails have been convoluted at best.
Well, I got one that says I sent it to the wrong Scott, like.
Yeah,
Jacob
we'll
or
talk
something.
about that at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
But I think what I'm starting to, it's starting to sound like we're talking about a way to help some of these things is allowing us to pay Scott to do this. Is that what I'm hearing? And
Yeah, for Scott to use some of
and
his,
there's not really other ways for us to help them.
right.
so
it
that
really
is a good
is.
way.
At this point, it would be us using some of Scott's contracted hours to help people get these grants in the community.
Which makes sense in mine.
Yeah, does anybody have any angst on that?
No, I think I just would like make sure you kind of keep your track of your hours so we can go back to the
He does.
community. No, I know, but like he's working on the ambulance grant for 5 hours, so we can show.
Oh,
the
I would,
community.
I would,
Yeah, and then but even if
I don't know if they share with you. I give them a very detailed timesheet on day, time, who I've talked to, what project it is,
Yeah.
emails,
Mhm.
reporting.
It's really helpful because it does kind of say
Village.
what's happening for the village, what's happened for the town, what's sort of happening, just because it's our work, stuff like this meeting.
So I would
it's
do
our
the same.
work.
I would put, 2 hours with ambulance squad on behalf of the town, like, what I did.
Well, or at this
application,
point, I think it would be on half of the
the
LDC,
Right,
right? So
Yeah.
there's gonna be, I feel like there's going to be more that on your list that's on behalf of the LDC, because we're finally starting to get
And
traction.
that's what I'm saying. I think it's good, yeah, especially for an ambulance.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And that was with the lighthouse, because I think, you and I can chat about
Right.
that. But I think it's a fairly easy grant, to do.
I think so too. I don't think it's a lot of work.
I figured it was just, but
But
let's
they
go
could
through it
probably
like that.
do most, I mean, they would have to give me the information anyway, so they could probably do most of it, and I could just review it and make sure it's
Yeah.
found what they need to say.
Yeah.
But it
So-
goes back to the email I wrote. They have to have those key things,
Yeah, and maybe you and I can have just a separate
Yep.
call on that. All right, is there anything else? I didn't make it in 2 hours. I'm so sorry, but we had 3 guest speakers.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very good agenda. At next meeting, Patty Hartmuller would like to come. She has ideas about a dog park. So I pushed her off because I thought this was, really a full agenda. But does anybody have anything else to add, or can we let poor Carol go to bed because she's sick?
I'm
And
not sick, I'm fine. I'm just isolating.
Fish fry at the Legion Friday night, Lions breakfast Sunday.
oh my God, I'm telling you, I'm gonna eat out all weekend.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it is,
Okay, before we quit, isn't it kind of exciting that we had guests at the meeting? We had people presenters, and you've got more people who want to present. I mean, it's kind of like
It's great.
it's
starting.
starting to grow. Okay,
Stepping forward.
Pam did primary or whatever, first, who's second?
A second.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank
Ladies on the phone, we are done. Think hard about a replacement for Sharon.
Yeah, we'll bring it up to the village, using
Excellent.
that criteria.
All right, thanks, everybody. I'm gonna sign off.
Bye.
Bye.
You-
Thank you.